And the third thing I'd like you to see tonight is that a habit of prayer prepares us for looming hardship. Verse 41 says, "And he was withdrawn from them about a stone's cast, and he kneeled down and prayed." Now, the point that I'm driving at is that Jesus, as the Apostle John tells us, had a habit of prayer, had a habit of visiting in this place, which is why Judas knew where he was going. Remember, Judas leaves before they leave. Judas goes and gets those who he would turn Jesus over to and leads them to this place, knowing that Jesus would be there, knowing that it would be a quiet place, knowing that he would perhaps even be alone, because that was his habit. He didn't start doing it at the end, but he had this habit of prayer. And it's important for us to remember that in our lives. A habit of prayer prepares us for what's coming next. Now, unlike Jesus, we don't know what's coming next, do we? He warned the apostles. He exhorted them to pray because he knew. And the thing that we have to sort of confront our hearts with is that we tend to pray if we have time, if it's left over, and not make it a priority. And so we need to pray. Pray that we might faithfully serve God. Make that a habit of our prayer life. There's a gentleman who walks around and comes and says hi to me every once in a while, and he'll ask me, "What's your prayer request for the church?" And I'll say to him, "Well, pray that the Lord keeps us faithful." And he's, "Oh, you always say that, but you're the only person I've ever heard ask for that who's a pastor of a church." And he said, "Oh, that's such a great prayer request." It's like, really? I think you've never heard that before? I think that should be a major prayer request in our lives. And that's part of the idea of what Jesus is calling them to pray here. They have this looming hardship. Pray that your hearts would be sealed for his courts above. Pray that you'd be faithful in the midst of the hardship. Pray that you would not enter into temptation. And we should pray that every day, that the Lord would enable us to serve him faithfully, no matter what the Lord might bring to us that day, to be prepared. Some have argued, and I would tend to agree with them, that part of the problem that Peter, and not just Peter, let's not single him out, that all the apostles struggled with in this night of darkness was they hadn't had the prayer time they needed. That they had, the spirit was willing, but the flesh was weak, and they had succumbed to sleep, and they were not as prepared as they could have been, even as Jesus exhorted them to be. We need each day, each evening, whenever it is your time of prayer, and it doesn't have to be either or, it can be both and, that we would pray that the Lord would keep us faithful.